Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to Ribbon Candy Hooking. Good morning. I know there's a little bit of a delay. I'm waiting for just a second. It's a busy morning here. I have both kids here in the studio space today. They are eating pizza, and we'll see if they make a cameo appearance, a crazy appearance at some point, probably. Anita, good morning. Great to see you. A great sunshiny day, huh? It's a beautiful day here, too. It's a nice, cool springtime kind of day. Very green, very fresh and crisp. It's nice. I would take a day like this any day. I have to show you, I had to put on my, these are my new earrings there. I wonder if you can tell, they're balloon dogs, right? The iconic balloon dog. I got him to make the kids laugh, and I just got him yesterday from Etsy. I ended up falling in love with them because I think they're so festive for summertime. But we ended up while we were on the Cape, we saw a man, twisting balloons into balloon animals, and and the kid, we for whatever reason, and all of the stuff that we do, which is so much, we just have never encountered a person making balloon animals before. It's like so unlikely, but it's just the way it's been. So the kids wanted to get balloon animals. So I said, we were on the other side of the road in Provincetown, and I thought, let's just finish what we're doing, then we'll loop back, we'll get some food, we'll loop back. I'm sure he's still going to be there in 10 minutes. And so in the meantime, we stopped at a toy store and they bought a book, like a kit, like one of those Klutz books about making balloon animals, and it came with all these super low quality balloons that immediately popped with the little pump. And we got that, we were all jazzed up about balloon animals, and we were approaching this is so typical of kids. We were approaching the bench where the guy was who was making the balloons, and he was, to put it nicely, he was a character. He had on a giant balloon crown, with things sticking straight, like, straight up off of it. And he was surrounded by balloon animals. And as we got closer, Jocelyn was going, I don't see the balloon animal. I can't tell which guy is the balloon animal. We were like literally standing upon him, and she was still like, I can't tell which guy is the balloon animal. And you try not to be sarcastic as a parent, but it's like, it's the person who's sitting on the bench with a giant crown that's a giant balloon surrounded by balloons. That's the person. But in any case, we ended up getting the worst ladybug and dragon I have ever seen. They both looked sort of unmentionable. And later that night, the kids logged on to YouTube, which is good for so many things, right? And they started making balloon animals themselves. And I ended up ordering better quality balloons off Amazon, thicker ones and a better pump. And they have been like madly making animal balloons, particularly little poodle dogs, which is, I guess, the iconic, and of course, the sword, which has created different sword fighting problems. But I'm really happy with these little guys, and it made me want to create a design with little poodle balloons. Made me want to do it too. Made me want to learn how to do it. Interesting, these crazy days of summer, right? This is still their last week of school. That's why they're here doing their schoolwork and everything. 2 days left, and we are wild and free. I can't wait. Kaz, good morning. You are already wild and free, off from school being a teacher. That is so nice. Martha, I loved your email yesterday. Martha responded to the idea I had yesterday saying, isn't it time that we start to put together some kind of a database that's very visually easy to see? Not black and white photos that are taken at angles that are out of focus, but a really definitive database of rug designs, who made them. Of course, there's going to be an early overlap between like Frost's and Blue Nose, and there will be some like bleeding on the edges of the early lines of whose is what. But as time goes on, it becomes clearer and clearer to tell whose patterns are belong to whom. And I really think we should document that. And I loved your ideas, Martha. I just haven't had time yet to respond, but I'm quite serious about getting that done, because I think putting, rocks on the corner of our picnic blanket here is going to really help us in the future identify, save, alert each other, knowing that other people are collecting, other makers, other pattern designers. It's going to help everybody be able to find what they're looking for, and just document the whole timeline of rug cooking history a lot better than it has been thus far. So I loved your email. Donna, good to see you. Oh, it's beautiful day, but lots of wind. That has been a thing this season, hasn't it? The wind has been wild, Wizard of Oz kinds of wind many times this season. I guess it is March winds, right? It's not March anymore, but March winds and March. What is April? April showers bring May flowers. can't remember how the whole thing goes, but it has been a wildly windy spring here too. Penny, good to see you. Nice and sunny in North Carolina. And the sun is shining in upstate New York, Debbie. That's great. Upstate New York sounds so nice right now. It makes me want to take a road trip. I mean, I just came back from the Cape, right? But you know that feeling of once you start doing something, you feel like doing more of the same. And I feel like going on another road trip. I was thinking about even taking the kids, this sounds crazy, to an amusement park this weekend because we weren't able to do it all of last year. We're still wearing our masks. We're pretty uptight because, of course, the kids are not vaccinated. I am fully. Everybody that is around me is fully, but the kids are not. So thinking about it, but I thought it might be able to be done. We might be able to do that carefully and really enjoy ourselves, riding a little bit of what's there, not everything. We're not big thrill people to begin with, but could be fun. Going to upstate New York also sounds very good this weekend. You know, when that thing came up yesterday, when Jill wrote and said, I got tickets for the Wool Festival, I just thought she meant this weekend because my head wasn't screwed on. And I thought, yeah, let me go up there. Let me go up to the Finger Lakes this weekend. Let's go to the festival. But it turns out it's October. But got me thinking like, oh, yeah, I want to go up to New York and do something immediately. Tara, good to see you in Ontario. Catherine, great to see you in Idaho. Teresa, great to see you too. And Chrissy, Sue's hello in Kansas. It's 101 degrees. It's going to reach 101. That's hot. There's no two ways about it, right? That's uncomfortably hot. I hope that it cools off later in the day and that it's easy to sleep and all that stuff. It's just that summer thing, isn't it? That is the scary part of summer is when you get these wildly hot days and it's very hard to manage and be comfortable. Beverly, great to see you. Kirsten, great to see you. Only 69 degrees, Anita. That is comfortable for us too. We're like mid 60s right now. Karen, great to see you. M. Van Stewart, yay, from San Diego, California. Great to see you. Oh, I'm so glad. Linda, Jersey girl is late. You're not late. You're just fine. I was just shooting my mouth off anyway. Fudge and Frogs, good afternoon from Delaware. Oh, I love Delaware. What a beautiful historic state. Partly sunny and beautiful here. I'm so glad. Lisa, great to see you. I love them. I just love them. And weirdly, they're not glass, they're plastic, but one is like a darker magenta and the other's more like a lilac. I like that they're different. Creates interest and intrigue. I'm going to be working on one of those designs. So before we get started, do you remember how yesterday I was saying I was trying to come up with the right gift for my brother-in-law, who is such an all-around curious, fun guy, but I feel like I've exhausted all my great gifts for him, it being his birthday this weekend. And how I was trying to come up with a design for that piece of seaweed, the sort of fish sack that fish, like for example, skates, rays, sharks, those kinds of fish use. They have their babies in a sack, and then it looks like seaweed. It washes up on the shore, and it's called the devil's purse, sometimes the mermaid's purse. So I spent some time last night when I was seated on the couch working out designs. I went through about 100 pieces of tracing paper trying to get a composition that I thought was masculine slash gender neutral, not too flowery, in other words, and that had a very strong geometric line to it, and that the devil's purse motif would be prominent, but not immediately eye-catching. I wanted it to fall into the background the way that a William Morris tapestry kind of sits, without shocking. So I came up with this. This is the design I came up with. I'm in the middle of transferring it. It's been a busy morning with the kids under my feet. Transferring it, I've got it on the fiber tape right now that I'm going to peel off, and I'm putting the lines in. But it's basically a very simple geometric. I'm going to use this a smaller version when I teach the class on Cape Cod. One in July, one in August on hooking and punching. I'm going to use this for the hooking example because it's just a simple geometric. My lines are not clean. I was doing it between picking up pizza 7 minutes ago and coming on with you. So I only got the devil's purse design in so far. So this is what I'm looking at so far. And I just want to show you, if you're new to rug hooking, you see I've only got the devil's purse in the background so far, the motif. If you're new to rug hooking, I just want to remind you, when you're transferring, particularly if you use the technique that I most often use, which is this fiber tape, the first thing I did when I transferred, this is just a reminder for beginners, the first thing I did was I made a mark on all four corners, top, bottom, right in the middle actually, right in the middle, top, bottom, north, south, east, west. And I drew the line straight down from there. I'm always reversed here. I'm always reversed and confused. I did the 4 marks and then I drew a perfect square frame right along the lines of the monk's cloth or linen or rugwarp, but perfectly straight and squared. Now, if you notice with a design like this, it is a geometric design. I have more straight up, downs, north, south, east, west. Not the diagonals, but north, south, east, west. So the next thing I'm going to do, now that I've got my devil's purses all drawn out, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to make a mark on the other lines that are the squared lines, north, south, east, west. And I'm going to complete those around the devil's purses so that I know that my piece is perfectly squared. Do you see what I mean? If your piece isn't transferred perfectly squared, a strong geometric like this, you're going to run into all kinds of mayhem. So I'm going to make sure that everything geometric is perfect. And the last thing I'm going to do is the diagonals. I'm going to connect the diagonals. They might not connect exactly the way this connects because it might be a hair off. The fiber tape drawing might be a hair off. The way that I transferred it might be a hair off. But the main thing to remember when you're doing a transfer, particularly with a lot of lines, is you got to get those lines square or you're going to be hooking a little bit wonky and it is going to really trip you up. That is one of the only rules. That is one of the only hard and fast rules. Just keep it square. And that's the reason I first drew the square border and then I dropped in all the devil's purse motifs. Now I'm going to drop in my next set of geometrics around the devil's purse and connect everything else. It sounds messy. It doesn't take any longer to be careful with your lines. It doesn't take hardly any time to be careful with your lines. But being careful with your lines, it's like a stitch in time saves 9. It's going to save you more than 9 later. It's going to save you a lot of grief and aggravation. So just a tip for beginners. I'm realizing that I'm getting a lot of emails lately from beginners, which makes me super happy. A lot of questions about what can I use, what's the difference between monk's cloth, linen, rugwarp, what kind of hook should I use, and I feel like I should be addressing all of those things and maybe more in coffee time. Please ask questions in coffee time. Interrupt anytime to ask questions. I want to answer all those questions. I do videos with that information, and a lot of people do, but it does get buried. There are hundreds of videos now on my page, and I want beginners to be able to find the information that you're looking for sooner rather than later. And I want you to remember that everything has an easy answer to get you started. And if you hit a problem, it's going to be an easy answer to get you over the problem. So feel free to interrupt if you're here and you're live. We always like to help each other. If I don't see it, somebody else will certainly answer you right away and say, this is what you need to do. Keep going. That's the main thing. Don't get too stumped. Let's see, Lisa Barbara, good morning. You call those mermaid purses too. That's funny. They are such pretty things. I really love them, and I only became aware of them recently when I found one a few years ago. Weirdly, I'd never noticed them before. All the seaweed and all the stuff that washes up, but they are really lovely, and they're so sort of they have a magical fairy type quality, particularly when they're called a purse, right? But I'm very happy with this design, and I can't wait to see. It is an amazing sea creature, isn't it, Lisa? It's like just such a weird thing that washes up, and they're always a bit twisted and gnarled, and they're the ends of them, the little sort of filigree parts on the ends always look different with each one, a little bit gnarly and different. But they are magical little items. One of those, it just makes a great motif. You can put anything into a easy geometric design like this. But the way I'm going to do it, you'll see as I work it, I'm going to do things with darks and lights. So it's going to have almost a 1980s quality, using the same sort of colors but different values, darks and lights. It's going to be a real play on colors. If you picture a swatch watch, the way that they played with color with those like in halves, it's the idea behind this pattern. So that'll be fun as it evolves. I can't wait to start working on it, hopefully tonight. So, I took a detour last night when I started looking at content for this episode of Coffee Time. I was going to do the Tarrant book, My Rug Cooking World. And the more I looked at it, the more I realized there's more to it than an episode. And I don't like to do cliffhangers with Coffee Time that will hang over into next week. So I thought, let me cover that for Cocktail Night on Friday. We'll have a nice, cozy cocktail night on Friday. This Tarrant book is just... it's rare. It's not like a sort of important academic book in terms of raw cooking. It's a very personal memoir kind of a book, and it's from 50s, 60s. It's so pretty. I mean, it's so she does a lot in it, talking to her aunt, and I can't tell at this point if it is sort of a metaphorical aunt, like if it is just like a spirit body that she's talking to, or if it's a specific person who's passed away. I haven't quite figured that out yet. I'm not sure that it even matters, but it's so beautiful the way that she's always talking to this aunt and thanking her for her influence, for her inspiration, for giving her the push that got her interested in rug hooking, because as you'll hear on Friday night, she had a real tough life and her life came to a crazy, stressful crossroads, and she felt that rug hooking really saved her life. Having things to do to keep her hands busy and her mind busy um, really saved her from being in a very bad place. And the book is a lot about that and about the designs that she worked over the years and other people's designs that she knew. It really is so charming, and it's not a half hour charming. It's at least an hour and a half charming. So let's do that Friday night. We'll have one of our cozy book nights. Kira has already written me about the next bingo night, which is not this coming Friday, the following Friday. And she bounced off the idea of a flower theme, like different flowers. And I think I can run with that too, because I love the language of flowers, you know, the Victorian language of flowers, yellow flower for friendship and red flower for passion and love, all that stuff. I think we could really beef out a flower episode and make it really summery and poetic and fun. But that'll be not this coming Friday, next Friday. I also want to remind you, I confirmed the date with Dayevna for our Zoom call for her fantastic book, New Girl in Little Cove. This will be a Zoom call. This will be our first book club meeting, Hook and Book, Sunday, July 11th, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be 9 o'clock for her, and she said that's the perfect time for her. So it sounds terribly late to me, but she says that sounds great to her. So I'll create a Zoom call for this probably later this week, and I'll post it everywhere. Sunday, July 11th, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It really was a charming book, a great summer book. It's not, it's a very light book, but it was filled with themes that were a little bit heavier. It wasn't a super challenging read. It was very fun. It felt like being on vacation reading this book. And again, it does deal a lot with rug hooking. There's a lot of characters in there who are hookers, and that is a big part of the storyline. So that's just an interesting sideline for us. I am so looking forward. I've been chatting with her on email, but not particularly personal. I want to keep all my questions for her until we're on the Zoom call together, and for you too to ask her questions if you can think of some. But of course, the first thing I want to ask her is, do you rug hook? Because somebody else wrote and said that she had thanked Dion Fitzpatrick, the famous rug hooker in Canada, at some point, like in the back of the book or the front of the book. Because I had the book on Audible, I didn't have the physical book in my hand, so I didn't know that. So I'm curious to know whether she got all of her rug hooking information from Dion Fitzpatrick, or if she actually is a rug hooker, or maybe somebody in her family is a rug hooker. Because it's just a curious thing to add, isn't it? It's something you don't see very often. Oh, good, Catherine. You already purchased it on Kindle. That's great. And Lisa says, my first rug was a flower. It was a cone flower. Was it the Sharon Smith cone flowers? I love cone flowers. The cone flower I associate with the Sharon Smith design because that is so, so good. But I'm sure your corn flower, if it wasn't the Sharon Smith, is also glorious. I just love that particular pattern that she did. So, I took a detour when I decided to do the Tarrant book on Friday because I just felt there was just too much information there to rush through. And I was going through my magazines again from my trip. And you know what struck me is, I'm going to be careful with my wording because it didn't upset me, but it struck me that I've seen a lot of times in the last 48 hours on all of the Facebook social media pages, this meme, which I'm new to this too, is like a picture that has a tagline that becomes, it's said over and over and over. It was not Sharon Smith. Oh, Lisa, I would love to see your cone flowers. Never said that before. One of those sentences I've never said before. I would love to see your cone flowers. 50%. You're about 50% inland of the book. It's sweet and cute, isn't it? I really enjoyed it. I really did. It was sweet. I always worry that books that are like, this sounds awful, fiction are going to be like on the corny side, and this one for me was not at all. So it was a big relief because I don't do well with that particular angle, and I felt that it was a smarter book for like a light fiction book. I thought it was very charming. So I've noticed the same meme again and again in the last couple of days on a lot of pages, and I'm not upset by it, but it like throws up a little bit of a flag for me because the meme is something like, if you're not on social media, it shows somebody who looks like they're like in some kind of soapbox situation, picketing or something, holding up a sign, and on the sign, it's the words have been superimposed, right? Because I'm sure that this photo is used for a lot of memes with a lot of different purposes. And the sign says something like, "Please stop confusing rug hooking with latch hooking," something like that. And I've seen it many times, and it is funny. And I know the reason it keeps going around is probably because it is one of the few memes that has to do with rug making, right? The reason it worries me at all, it doesn't worry me, that's the wrong word, but like I just, for myself, I am not a great latch hooker. I've put out a few latch kits and I'm going to put out some more, but I did latch hook when I was younger, and there is still a huge passion, rage, and trend for latch hooking. And I guess for myself, I just feel like rug making is rug making. I don't particularly feel like one is better or very different than the other. A latch rug is still made with a hook. It's just a hook with a toggle, and it has a high pile, right? So latch rugs for me personally are a little bit less appealing in general because the high pile tends to obscure or pixelate what the actual image is. So for me, I prefer a low pile and I prefer a loop. But over the years, there have been lots of styles of rugs, including Waldoboro's, that were also done with a hook that had a very high pile. And those are esteemed and treasured rugs. Latch hooking has always had a kind of negative connotation. It is always, it was a craft that was created, in the middle 20th century, eh, renowned for families getting involved. And when it was popular, it was the 60s, 70s. And the designs that came out because of the 60s, 70s era were very sort of pop art designs. They weren't traditional designs for the most part. And for that reason, I think traditional rug hookers and punchers tend to think of latch hooking as some kind of a skeleton in the closet or some kind of very distant Stephen King type relative living somewhere else. But it really is not that different. And I mean, I would encourage anybody who's interested in rug making to try all kinds of rug making. They're all fun, they're all different, they all give you a different effect, and they all have the potential to create equally beautiful end products. So, with that in mind, I saw that meme and I started picking up some of my magazines from the 60s, 60s and 70s. For example, this is a Bernat catalog from the 1960s. Now, there is some confusion in the 60s for sure, even with Bernat. Um, they show you rugs that are latch patterns and they show you rugs that are hooking patterns, and they don't really make the distinction in their own catalog. I think at this point, people are buying more stuff in person. They're not. This isn't an ordering catalog. It's a catalog that shows you what designs they've come up with. So I want to share this catalog with you. So Karen says, I see the same remarks about knitting and crochet. That is absolutely true. Crochet is the underdog. There's no doubt about it. I knit and crochet badly for both, but there's sort of any kind of high horse view of things or nutshell view of things always strikes me as a little bit troubling. Again, it's not about the meme. It's just about, I guess I want with this episode to show some excellent examples of latching, because there are actually way more people who latch in this world currently than there are hookers. If you Google, for example, YouTube videos on latching, there are bazillions, Brazilians of latch hook videos. The amount of people who latch versus punch or hook is like a landslide astounding, way, way, way more. So with that in mind, you might not always like the latch products that you see, but I think it's helpful, important to know that you can do things with latch hook that are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, staggeringly gorgeous. So that's the point I want to make today. Thanks, Donna. I want to encourage any crafts that people do. Rug making is rug making, and these rugs, the latch rugs, are usually for the wall in the 60s and 70s. Occasionally, you see one on the floor, but this is art. They're very small, the kitted latches, right? And they're beautiful. So let's just look at this catalog because it's full of. I'm going to go over for sure with time again. It's full of great ideas. The family's book of Bernat rugs, and you can see the whole. They're encouraging with this photo the whole family to work together, and they've got a large rug. This could be a floor size rug. This is the pattern with a playing card. It's a beautiful pattern. All of these patterns will translate really well to rug hooking too, right? There's a lot of crossover for us. If you just watch this episode with the mind of thinking, I'm interested in design. This is a great design. Most playing cards are great designs. Old playing cards are out of copyright. You can get books of old playing cards, collecting old playing cards. Those are all out of copyright. You can make those, right? This is the doctor's buggy here. You see, they do make an attempt, even in the 60s. This one's called Dutch tiles, to do sort of historic type designs. So I started going through this book, and I found a lot of really interesting and beautiful patterns. Let me show you some of them because I don't think Bernat is going to mind if I advertise how innovative they were back in the 60s. This is the late 60s. So they're showing you examples for juvenile, more traditional, contemporary, kind of old-fashioned romantic. They're showing some very different styles, right? How different is this than this? They're trying to put out designs, and again, another very traditional one. And some of these very traditional patterns they will also offer as rug hooking kits. Some are latch kits, some are rug hooking kits. But this one, the sort of Asian characters, is called happiness, prosperity, long life, and fulfillment. That's what these four symbols mean. Now you see people running around all over the place with tattoos of these kinds of symbols on their bodies these days. Well, in the 60s, Bernat put out a rug making catalog that included those symbols. How ahead of their time were they? Teddy's in the other room. Teddy, come on over and say hi to everybody. Come on in. This one is cute. It's called Nova Scotia, this little one here. But you can see that these are kind of mimicking the decade before when Pearl McGowan was putting out rugs that looked very much like this. Bernat is kind of riding on the coattails of that look and doing very traditional designs to attract people who are more traditional. And then they get into these kinds of pages where you can see, you probably can't see in this photo that I'm holding up, but some of these are on certainly burlap down here. These guys down here are on burlap. And others are for latch. So it's a real mixed bag what they're doing, but they are definitely putting out kits for latch, kits for hooking, and they're also producing a shuttle that will be for punching, right? So they're doing all three at this point. Lots of traditional patterns again, and most of these are for hooking. Depending on your taste, to me, these are not sort of the height of excitement for me, but I think they're really interesting and beautiful. They're trying to hit all the bases and include everybody's sort of taste in what they're offering. Karen says, I have 2 3x5 rugs that my father latched, both traditional. So beautiful, right? And when you look at Facebook Marketplace, if you use Facebook, you look at their little store, and you type in hooked rug, you will often, and I would say always, get a lot of rugs that are latched because they are using a latch hook. So confusion of language, again, rug hook, latch hook, very confusing. And many of them, like you're saying, Karen, are traditional florals, and they are just beautiful. They are just beautiful. I liked this page. I want to share this with you, knowing I'm going to run over anyway. They put such interesting anecdotes into these little catalogs. Can you imagine anyone taking the time to do something like this now? Can you imagine getting this in the mail? This quality of a publication. It's got this page that's called Meet the Master Dyer of Long Ago, dressed for a pageant of the Master Dyer's Guild. To him we owe the glowing tones of medieval tapestries, the glorious costumes of the Renaissance, the brilliant upholsteries and draperies of the royal courts, all the beautiful colors that have come down to us in our own fashions and decoration. He was a craftsman, he was a great artist with color, and members of the Bernat family still follow in his tradition. For 3 generations in America, there has always been a master dyer named at Bernat, producing colors that you have come to look for in Bernat for yarns. In other words, they have hired somebody traditionally through the years whose job occupation is the master dyer in the sort of vain tradition of the Renaissance dyer. And that person's job is basically what we would call a modern colorist, right? That person would decide, he or she, what were going to be the popular colors for that year. Now in the 60s, we've got a lot of bright primary colors, but as we move into the 70s, we get that Brady Bunch palette, which is very different. The master colorist at Bernat is going to be the person who looks at trends and furniture and decorating and fashion, makes those decisions about rugs too. Just thought that was an interesting thing to include. But you can see how diverse this catalog is. And you can see, look at this pattern I'm pointing to here. It's a little parrot in like a Chinese lantern kind of a motif. What a great motif. This one here almost looks like woodwork, like, you know, on a wall, like a piece of woodwork or like metal toll kind of a thing. Very, very, very different. Nothing to turn your nose up at. These are all great original ideas. And they even show you on this page, they introduce something called tweed rugs. And what the master dyer is doing here is showing you how to make a fairly solid rug by mixing the colors that he will put into your kit. You're mixing them and you're getting this tweed. Now, there's a lot of modern carpets that have this wall-to-wall carpets already. But imagine getting a kit where you have the option and the possibility doing something like this. And in the solid boxes, you're mixing your own tweed with the colors that you like. Now, that is fantastic. That is fantastic. That's something you really can't do with hooking. You know, you get loop, 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 unless you want to switch off at every loop. That is one of the great benefits of hooking over punching and looping, is you can take a bunch of colors at once, put them through in one hook, put them through one trellis, one opening. You know, you can have 3 yarns in one, right? If it starts getting crowded, you just back off and put fewer around it. You don't want to get like packed with latch, like you don't want to get packed with hooking. But you can, and I often do with my kits, sometimes use 2 or 3 yarns in the same pull, and then they fuse together. And you do that enough, and you get a little patch, very mixed tweedy color. That is something you can do with latch that you cannot do with other kinds of rug making. Goes on to say, the Bernat rug you are starting today will be in your family for generations. Like your sterling silver, or your Wedgwood, or your Spode china, or your Danish woods. Is this a moment in time or what? Do you have any Danish mid-century furniture? Because if you do, you could probably sell it on eBay right now and retire as a millionaire to the beach. But your Danish woods, your Bernat rug will hold its beauty as long as it is cared for. It talks about how it's moth-proofed. It's 100% wool in these kits, 100%, and moth-proofed. So, and it's all been handled by the master dyer. It goes on to say, pages and pages of interesting stuff about how to care for your rug, how to clean it, how to spot clean it, how they choose the designs, and they talk about, for example, what you would want in different rooms, what you would want, for example, in a bedroom versus the living room. Kings, queens, hearts, golden pheasants, pole parrots, weather vanes, clipper ships, American eagles. That, you know, in a colonial room, family room, you might want an American eagle or a clipper ship. It's giving you suggestions like that. In a kid's room, 3 little kittens or toy soldiers or doctor's buggy or whatever. So cute. And then pages and pages in this one little thing of how to actually latch. It's so simple, but it shows you lots of drawings how to do it, so there's no chance of messing it up. And then there's even pages that, this is really amazing, that say, what kind of designs do people create, right? This is something we talk about all the time. Family monograms in big block letters, college letters in college colors, yachting signal flags, often with the date, that say welcome aboard or other messages. A silhouette of the family home, often with the date when the house was built. The family name, your last name, whatever, on 2 lines. Silhouette of your favorite breed of dog. Hobby rugs, different category, tennis, racquetball, golf, antique guns, cars, whatever. Fraternal insignia, Masons, Elks, Knights of Columbus, Oddfellows, whatever. Family crests, if you still have a crest, or if you want to make your own crest, started from scratch, why not? Memory rugs with dates symbolizing special events. I mean, just, these are all I just read every idea they have right here. What great ideas. I don't even think I've thought of 3/4 of those ideas. What great ideas. And then it says how to do it. If you're going to make your own latch and you're just buying latch background, you come up with an idea. They gave you a blockbuster list of ideas right there. And then it tells you exactly how to draw it, how to transfer it onto your backing, and then how to hook it. I mean, I just think it's amazing. I looked at this book and I thought, I got to do more latch. Look at how modern and beautiful some of this stuff is. This is more like a quilt pattern, but look at this. Beautiful abstract. They're trying to show so many different kinds of ideas, and I think they're so successful in this one. Oh, look at that. Not that one so much. This one I like over here. And the American Eagle. This is real traditional here too, this one. Really pretty. Lots of geometrics, lots of welcome mats. Real pretty. The Shamrock. But yeah, I'm going to stop with this catalog. But I was just absolutely blown away. It's just a tiny little catalog. Bernat put out catalogs just about every year. I happened to find this in that bookstore restaurant that I was telling you about that has the skate park outside and everything. All of their, it's in Wellfleet, Massachusetts. It's called the Bookstore, Cape Cod. It's called the Bookstore Restaurant. You cannot imagine how many magazines they have in that store. They have, it smells like an old book too. It's just a smell that I can't live without. They probably had 10 copies of just this one Bernat and lots more. But everything was 50% off this summer. They're not closing, they're trying to reorganize. So this was like a $5 book I got for $2.50, and there were lots more if you're anywhere near there. So many magazines, like the ones I was looking at yesterday, the Home and Garden and all that. Let me show you another couple quick things, and then we'll sign off for today. This is another magazine I got from them for 50% off last week. And this is the magazine called Needlework and Crafts. Rarely does this magazine cover rug making because it's a needlework magazine. They're focused on crafts that involve needles, using a needle as an implement. But they often have rugs, particularly in the 60s and 70s. And this is a Latch rug that they're showing on the cover. I'll show you a better picture of it. It's a beautiful magazine filled with sweet ideas. But again, rarely do they have something that crosses into rug hooking. This is the full spread of that picture. This is a Latch rug on the ground. Now that ain't bad. You know, I mean, it is going to have a high pile. Of course, you can clip your pile if you want a lower pile rug. But that is a good looking rug with a lot of Swedish furniture sitting around, right? That is not bad. And then let me see what I have on the next page. Yeah, another cute rug they've done. This is a locker hooked rug of the cat. We'll talk about locker hooking at a future juncture. Locker hooking is completely different. Using the Latch backing, using like something that looks like a crochet hook with a big needle eye on the other end of it. We'll talk about, it's a different animal completely, still rug making. Big bonus of locker hook rug making is you can use your cottons, your quilt cottons if you're a quilter. You can cross over all those materials and use those a lot more easily. So another thing, but another day. But then there's this beautiful ad. There's this thing in the middle. I hate to rip it out just because it's an old magazine. Make luxurious deep pile hooked rugs. Now these are not what we would call hooked rugs now. These are latched rugs. And they're giving you it as a kit. So it will be this deep pile. But you can see how popular at this point Latch had become. And it is being called hooking. So hence the meme and hence the confusion over the years between latch hooking and rug hooking, because you're making a rug either way. This is fall winter 1964 to 1965. Let me show you one more little cutie a little bit further along. Spring 1978. This is another one I got. I just got a bunch because everything was 50% off. I got a bunch. And I thought, you know, there's not stuff about rugs in all of them, but there's stuff about recipes. There's stuff about making like little Santas and stuff out of cardboard boxes and tin cans. And I thought, there's got to be 100 things in every issue that I'm interested in. So I bought them all. But again, there's millions there for you if you're going to head over this summer. This is a cute article. It's called New Status for Floors. These are actually hooked rugs. And they're showing you in this article in 1978 the modern trend for hooked rugs. This is very different than what we see now. It's real specific, right? I mean, this is great for Pride Month in June. Beautiful rainbow rug. I love the clouds above. What a great motif. Very simple, very striking. And again, a hooked rug. And let me show you the spread on the next page. It's a 2-page spread. This is the entire spread is what I'm showing you. These are, I shouldn't say hooked rugs because you can see they're using a shuttle hook. So again, confusion. They're calling this a hooked rug, but it is made with a shuttle that is more like what we would call a punch. It's one of these shuttles like this, but it's the 60s, 70s one. They made a lot of them that were plug-in electric. They made a lot that walked themselves like the old-time shuttles. But there are a lot of versions of shuttles that have like a plastic handle that you can find in a thrift store that don't honestly work as well as a modern punch or hook. But people were using them, and things like this were getting kitted up and sold often. It's a real specific look, isn't it? Upbeat rug hooking. Definitely making a point of getting away from the traditional and moving toward trends in everything, trends in fashion, trends in decorating. Heading toward the 80s at that point, you can certainly see that. That rainbow rug and then the two dancers, I mean, how much does that remind you of, like, for me, like moonlighting, 80s shows? This is still the 1970s, so I feel that the rugs that they just showed us in that article for 1978 were ahead of the trend because those look more like 80s rugs to me, like 1985, than they look 1978. They weren't giving us the mustard colored owl with the big eyes. They were showing us a rainbow rug and then a couple tangoing. I mean, so unexpected, right? So that was hundreds of needlecraft and craft ideas from spring of 1978, if you're interested in that. But again, that was the entire thrust of the thing. These magazines are just fantastic. Anyway, I'm off the soapbox myself. It's just any kind of rug making is great. Any kind of crafting is great. I'll never be talked into saying or thinking that one is better than the other. It depends on what look you're going for. There's no reason why you can't do combos. You know, there are lots of people who rug hook with kind of a wide strip, wool strips, cotton strips, whatever, on latch hook backing. There are so many combos, crossovers, mutations of what you can do. It is endless. There is no right way. There absolutely is no right way. So whether you're latch hooking, locker hooking, rug hooking, punch needling, you're still rug making, and it's all the same, and they're all beautiful and they're all fun. You're holding a different tool in your hand than your neighbor, but you're making something beautiful. That person is making something beautiful. They're all equal heirlooms. I love all of them. I love all of them. And I feel like we should do maybe a little bit more with Latch, because I feel like I'd like to try to raise its reputation a little bit. In any case, I'm done. I'm done with that. I promise. I won't talk about Latch again for a while. But I felt the need, not for vengeance. I just felt like, come on, bring out the Bernat book and let's look at some seriously beautiful designs. If anything, I hope that inspired you to think about design. Some of the designs that we just saw in that catalog in those books are so different. Get your mind thinking along different lines, different directions, lots of possibilities. Also traditional, right? Lots of traditional stuff. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. I am going to be with you on Zoom tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time. I've already put the information for the Zoom call into this video. It's also up in the Facebook group, which is Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club. Karen, I'm so glad that you said that your dad did that latching, because it was such a common and not that it's a rarity now, but for men to be working on rug making, it being a craft and all. Lots of men did do it. Lots of men enjoyed doing it, just like men enjoy doing hooking and all kinds of other things. It's so great to have somebody say, my dad latched rugs, and they were nice traditional rugs too. Amazing. That makes me feel real happy. I'd love to see those rugs. Lisa, I'd love to see your coneflowers. I will see you tomorrow for Zoom. The information is in this video and on the Facebook page. And then I will see you Friday night for cocktail night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Same channel. Have a great day, everybody. See you tomorrow.